Okay, let's move on to Baltimore, where there are gang riots and urban riots in the city as, on the surface, it appears an effort to recreate Ferguson, Missouri is taking place. This is the urban core. You remember, ladies and gentlemen, it was a few short weeks ago, I asked a question. Why is it that all of these groups, minority or otherwise, who vote for the Democrat Party and who have their first ever African-American president, why are they angrier than ever? Why are they unhappier than ever? You've had the Democrat Party supposedly paving the way for them for 50 years. You've had the Democrat Party running interference for them for 50 years. The Democrat Party promising to get even with all those racist conservatives and Republicans. The Democrat Party promising that whatever goes wrong, they're going to fix. The Democrat Party making it clear that they are the champions of these downtrodden people. These downtrodden people are angrier than they've ever been. They're unhappier than they've ever been. They're more agitated than they've ever been. The urban core, Obama's base. The urban core, which you could say has more influence in presidential elections than ever before when they turn out. The urban core, and they're raising hell, and they're destroying property, and they're operating on the basis of lies. They're still believing that hands up, don't shoot happened. You can't talk sense to them. You can't tell them the truth about anything. They don't want to hear the truth. They want to live in their fantasy world. And you've got the first African-American president who does nothing to quell this. The first African-American president who doesn't do anything to stop this? Talk sense into people? No, he seems to be relishing it. Well, that may be, I don't know if he's relishing it, but he certainly isn't doing anything to stop it. It seems to be more chaos that he seems to play off of rather well and rather enjoyably. And we've got the mayor, grab audio soundbite 13, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, Saturday night, held a press conference responding to the violent protests over the criminal suspect Freddie Gray's death while in police custody. Reporters said, "Did you have any idea that this would go toward the inner harbor?" That's the developed area. That's tourist city, if you will.
I've made it very clear that I worked with the police and instructed them to do everything that they could to make sure that the protesters were able to exercise their right to free speech. It's a very delicate balancing act because while we tried to make sure that they were protected from the cars and the other things that were going on, we also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well.
We gave those who wished to destroy room to do it, space to do it. We didn't try to shut them down. Now, there is some pushback, if you believe the pictures from Baltimore. Back in a second. Seems like we say this multiple times a day now when reviewing the news. This is incredible. I've never seen anything like this before. Which, of course, isn't true because there isn't anything new, really, since Genesis. It may be new for people of a certain age who haven't heard of the thing before, but nevertheless, I do not recall, I'm sure other mayors have said things that are similar, but I don't recall a mayor saying, while we try to make sure that they were protected from the cars and other things that were going on, we also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We worked very hard to keep that balance, to make sure that the protesters were not run over by cars and other things. And while we protected them on that area, then we had to make sure they had the space to destroy. What? That's one of the most disqualifying statements ever made by a politician. There's no rational explanation for that. And I don't pretend to know what goes on in Stephanie Rawlings Blake's mind. I could make a pretty good guess, because I know she's a lib. As such, I know she's angry. As such, I know she's probably a racist. And so her view is the last thing we want to do is get anybody hurt. So, okay, these guys, they're hell-bent on destroying something. We just got to let it happen. Because if we try to stop it, there's going to be bloodshed. It's going to be bad out there. My cops are going to get hurt. Innocent bystanders get hurt. The protesters might get run over by cars. So if they want to destroy something, we got to give them space to do it. That's the peaceful way to resolve that. The only way I can possibly understand this. Not that I would concur with it, but just to understand it. Baltimore is getting the Ambassador Stevens treatment in Benghazi. And that, of course, pioneered by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. So Baltimore, like our ambassador in Libya, was left unprotected and undefended, and those who wished to destroy were given space to do it because, on balance, and that's what this is all about, she said, on balance, that's the safest way to go. Except that the space they were given was the inner harbor. I mean, that's probably the part of town that the protesters hate the most anyway, because it's built up. And I even have to be careful about characterizing what the inner harbor is. A proper characterization of the inner harbor caused charges of racism to be thrown around. I'm just stunned. Now, that one thing I have noticed, I've seen some pictures. I haven't read too much about this. Yeah, the inner harbor in the Camden Yards. Oh, try this. I had a friend was at Camden Yards on Saturday night, a Red Sox fan, went there to see the Red Sox and the Orioles. And in the ninth inning, they make an announcement on the PA, and they put the message up on the scoreboard in center field that the mayor has ordered every fan inside the stadium to stay there until a mayor gave the all clear, because there was rioting and mayhem and destruction going on outside. The game was still going on, ended up going extra innings. There were, I think I saw 15,000 fans still left at Camden Yards by the time the ninth inning came around. And they were ordered to stay in there because there was total mayhem. All kinds of bars and restaurants circle Camden Yards, and many people use those bars and restaurants pregame and postgame. And protesters are walking by these bars, it's the pictures I've seen, and some of the patrons who have to be white are actually leaving their seats at the outside tables and going back and confronting the protesters, which you don't see much. Now, I know it's just still shots, but it looked to me to be a little bit of pushback, which you don't see much. And what these pictures indicate is that the rioters were fighting other citizens, not the police. It was urban warfare between citizens in Baltimore. And here comes this mayor. Well, we have to give those who wished to destroy space to do that. I can safely say, at a time in this nation's past, somebody who thought this way would never, ever get elected to anything. But generations change, the country changes, young people change, and they all the product of their upbringing and education. And now people being elected to office they're not people who have shown maturity and growth from the things that animated their youth and childhood. They've gotten angrier and angrier and bolder, but now they've won elections, and now they represent the underside of society in many of these places. It's just incredible. We got to make sure the people who wished to destroy space to do that. Here, listen to it again. This is Stephanie Rawlings Blake, Baltimore mayor, on Saturday night at a press conference.
I've made it very clear that I worked with the police and instructed them to do everything that they could to make sure that the protesters were able to exercise their right to free speech. It's a very delicate balancing act, because while we tried to make sure that they were protected from the cars and the other things that were going on, we also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well.
I swear, I just, how do you get that? That's conceding. There's way too much of that going on here. There's way too much conceding to the rotten elements in our culture. It's happening in politics. The Republicans concede practically everything. It's happening now in the culture. The people who dominate are the meanest, the biggest bullies. This White House Correspondents' Dinner was a bully session when you get right down to it. Bullying Memories Pizza yet again. And these are the people claim to be on the lookout for bullies. And these are the people claim to be going to protect you from bullies. You go to Baltimore, is there a single person in a position of authority in Baltimore who is not a Democrat? And yet, the same thing practically everywhere else where problems like this exist. You'd pick the place, and I guarantee the place is run by Democrats, and has been for a while. So they've got the positions of power. They're winning elections. They're angrier than they've ever been. No, of course I know why. The Democrat Party wants it this way. The Democrat Party constantly agitates. There's no room for contentment. There's no room for being satisfied because the agenda must march and move on every day. There's not even any celebration of success on the left. They don't even get happy about that. Even when they win, they get ticked off. Even when they win, they get outrageously angry. Well, the police in Ferguson on one night, yes, refused to protect private property. But I don't know that that was an order from the mayor. May well have been. But I know that the police in Ferguson one night just stood out of the way. And if you wanted to blow up a building, if you wanted to start a fire, if you wanted to loot, the cops let you do it under the theory that we had to let them get it out of their system. Does that ever work, by the way, raising kids? I don't know. There's an appeasement to the most rabid elements of our culture. We're appeasing them like we appease the Iranians, like we appease every enemy that we've got everywhere. Everybody's scared to death. We can't even have a discussion here where people disagree because a disagreement is called hate. You're a hater if you disagree with this agenda or that agenda. Not all disagreement involves hate. Very little disagreement involves hate. But all disagreement with the left is now disqualified because it is hate. And, of course, people being accused of being haters don't want to be accused of being haters, so they shut up. Stephanie Rawlings Blake has a law degree. As such, she should know that destroying things is not free speech. Well, that's another thing that's been bastardized. I have my rights. You don't know what your rights are. You couldn't define rights if you had to. And I know what free speech is, man, and I have my right to free speech. Free speech does not let you destroy things. It does if I want to. I am an American. I have free speech. No, free speech does not entitle you to destroy things and other people's property. Here's Elijah Cummings, a former chairman of the Congressional Black Caucasians in the House of Representatives, on Face the Nation Sunday morning.
It was very peaceful all day, thousands of people. And then at the end, there were a few people who said, we're going to turn this city down. We're going to close it down. We had a few people, mainly from out of town, to come and to start beating up on police cars and throwing all kinds of projectiles. But the fact is that for the most part, it could have been worse. But again, this whole police community relations situation, Bob, is the civil rights cause for this generation. No doubt about it.
What civil rights cause of this generation? No question about it, Bob. This whole police community relations situation is civil rights cause for this generation. What is this, a bunch of people just trying to relive the 60s then? What is this based on? If it's based on Ferguson, Missouri, it's all based on a lie. Anyway, I got to take a break here, folks, but you sit tight. Much more straight ahead when we get back. And I guess this is what happens if you grow up being taught that the only noble and important thing to ever happen in American history was the civil rights movement. And there's no question that that's true. In many school districts all across the country, the most important thing to happen in American history was the civil rights movement. Yeah. Why did all this stuff fail then? Why does all this stuff happen? We've done all these things. We've made all these advancements. We've taken all of these precautions, and we've made all of these changes. I'm still struck by that. I'm still struck by... Now, I'm not talking about the fake anger. I'm not talking about the paid rent-a-mob types that are bussed in by these groups to raise hell. That's bought and paid for. There is nevertheless legitimate unhappiness in all of these communities, legitimate anger. Now, I would be too if I had the presence of mind to look at it the way I do, and that is I've been investing every dream I've got in the Democrat Party. I've been trusting those people my whole life. They're going to make it better, whatever that means. They're going to get even with the people that have been mean to me. They're going to get even with the people who have been mean to my family. They're going to get even with the people who got more than I do. They're going to do, and it never happens. Those people just get more and more money. They get richer and richer, and they never lose their jobs. And meanwhile, I can't find one. And yet the Democrat Party has made all these commitments to me. The Democrat Party has made all these promises. And on that standpoint, I can understand the rage and anger. But that is apparently not why they're angry. And you and I both know why they're angry. And we all know why they'll never be happy. Because the recipes they've been given to live by are not going to produce contentment or happiness or even joy. I mean, when people will lie to other people just to keep them mad, which is what happens in many cases here, it is really down-to-earth tragic. Let me grab a call. Start with Mike in Chicago. I'm glad you waited, sir. You're up first today. Great to have you with us.
Rush, first-time caller, and what an honor to speak to you, and to speak to Mr. Snerdley. I'm concerned about what the mayor said. If the government isn't going to protect property, then doesn't that make it up to the citizens to protect their property and take that protection into their own hands? And if citizens are protecting property, isn't that a complete contradiction of what the liberal agenda is about how government will protect us and we don't need to protect ourselves?
Well, it's a bit of an extreme, but the government does promise you that they'll take care of you. They'll protect you against racism and bigotry and homophobia and all that, and they'll give you all the money that they can, which is really not very much. But your real point here is that if city officials, state officials, federal officials are not going to lift a finger to protect property, if the police are ordered not to protect property for whatever reason, even if it's one of these famous left-wing, well-intentioned reasons, I was only trying to do the right thing. We know they're going to protest, and it's safer just to let them protest rather than try to stop them, because that would be to send in the cops, and then there would be injuries, and then there would be pain, and there would be blood. We don't want any of that. So the best way is just let them proceed, give them room to do it, and let them get it out of their system. This was somewhat of the thinking in Ferguson, by the way, on one night. Well, there's a problem. There are innocent people that have nothing to do with any of this, who happen to own businesses in the area in which the agitators choose to get mad and act on their anger. What are they supposed to do? They are relying on the authorities, be it the state, be it the city, police department, whatever, to protect them and their property. And if that's not going to happen, then what are these people to do? And I'm not even talking about arming themselves. I mean, I've seen pictures in Baltimore where people are pushing back and running into the street and confronting protesters. Not with guns. They're just fed up, and doesn't appear they just want to stand idly by and let their day be ruined, their property be ruined, or anything else. So can the mayor, since the mayor, I don't know, seems to approve this for whatever reason, I'm not saying she encouraged it, but who knows? Can she be sued? Can these businesses sue the city if they're damaged, if they're destroyed? I don't know. I just am asking. Well, I know now they have. The Baltimore City Police have arrested, released the names of individuals arrested during Saturday's riots. They've been charged with theft, assault, and rioting. After the way was paved for that to happen, apparently. Anyway, folks, we have lots more. George W. Bush has opened up on Obama in Vegas. We'll be back. Don't go away. Here is Frank in Albany. Frank, I'm glad you called. Great to have you on the program. Hello, sir.
Thank you very much for taking my call. And just before I get to my point, I just want to give a little shout out to Mr. Snerdley. What an intelligent, just got to the core of my issue and helped me along with it. And I just want to also, the speech that you made for Mr. Kit Carson was just so genuine and heartfelt that your description of him, if more men, more people in the world were like him, we'd be in a much better place. And just want to say that it was, I wish I could have gotten to know him.
Well, thank you very much. You say that Mr. Snerdley helped you focus on the point you wanted to discuss here?
Yes, he did, because I was...
Well, let's test that out. Let's see. Let's see how you do. What is it you called about, Frank?
Well, what you were talking about earlier, I thought about a month ago, and I almost pulled over. I was so mad at things, and I said, why didn't I think of this earlier? With all this riot stuff going on, all I thought about was somebody just said, you know what? Let these people do whatever they want, because we're going to assume they can't control themselves. Instead of going out there and saying, listen, you do anything and you're going to get arrested. No, it was more like, well, we understand you guys can't control yourself, so we're going to let you do whatever you want to do, blow off some steam, kind of like you said earlier.
Right.
It's just, and the liberal media that just absolutely doesn't call them on it. Or our friends, Mr. Jesse Jackson, or our other friend there, I can't think of his name right now. Sharpton. Why didn't they come out and say, listen, look how they're treating you. They think that you can't control yourself. That's why they're letting you do this kind of stuff.
Well, there's a great answer to the question. They don't want them to be responsible. They want to be responsible for them. They don't want these people to respond to reason. They're not trying to help these people. It's the bottom line. They're not trying to help these people. I have chosen to categorize this in a way. I'm always trying to come up with ways of describing things that'll help me persuade people what's really going on. Now, here you have in the case of Ferguson, or now in Baltimore, you have the grievance industry on parade. And a grievance, if your grievance is against the country, then as far as the left concerned, it's valid. Whatever your grievance is, and you are going to be represented and you're going to be encouraged in acting out that grievance. Because the desire here is not for, I know what you're saying, why doesn't Al Sharpton or the Reverend Jackson get their megaphones out and go to where the protesters are raising hell and say, did you hear what this mayor said? This mayor said that you people have to be given space to go out and destroy it because that's what you're going to do. Well, how about shaping up and exhibiting a little self-restraint and some responsibility, and let's not go about it this way. Jesse Jackson will say that in private to a group here or a group there. He'll disavow it if his remarks are caught on camera or a microphone, but he has, in private and small groups, said that. But in public, never. No way. He is not going to, and neither will Sharpton, he's not going to say to these people, you've just been insulted. The mayor just said you can't control yourselves. The mayor just said that you're out of control. The only way to deal with you is to let you go ahead and make fools of yourselves. Well, show them you're different. That wouldn't serve the purpose of the cause. The grievance industry requires people angry. The grievance industry helps fulfill and portray the idea that this country is unfair, that it's unjust, that it is immoral, and it has been that way since its first days. And what they want you to think is happening is that finally, after 230 plus years, the aggrieved have had it. They've reached their limit, and they're now standing up, and they are demanding redress. They are demanding fairness. They are demanding equality. And this, in fact, publicly is what the Reverend Sharpton and Jackson promote. What you're suggesting is a good idea, but this is what responsible parents do, or responsible mentors. A parent or responsible mentor is trying to get anybody to be the best they can be. It's trying to inspire people to live the right way and, have good manners and all that. But that's not a factor here. There is no mentoring going on. In fact, the encouragement is all the other way. They throw gasoline on these riots. They throw fuel on these fires. I mean, the worst thing could ever happen for Sharpton and Jackson if this stuff stopped happening, and there wouldn't be any need for them. That's the real bummer about all this. These people's lives are in the process of being utterly, totally destroyed and rendered meaningless in the long haul of things. And they're being encouraged. Nobody's trying to motivate them, inspire them to seek greater heights, be better than they can be. No, when that's brought up, people laugh at you. Yeah, you just don't understand, Rush. That doesn't work for the people we're talking about. It works for everybody. Human beings are human beings. Here's Aaron in Santa Maria, California. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Hey, Rush. Thank you for taking my call. Mega Rush 24/7 ditto. I'll get straight to my point. I think the mayor in Baltimore is actually regretful about the damage that was done.
You think she's regretful,
right?
You don't think she was encouraging the?
Exactly. I think she tried to create an environment where you could protest, and that she's regretful that it led to an environment that caused damage.
All right, grab somebody 15. Let's listen to it. Because I got an email from somebody who thinks, Rush, I don't have a stake in this, and I would never tell you how to do what you're doing, but you're really missing this. This mayor is actually a good mayor. She's, okay, fine. Takes all kinds. Let's listen to Stephanie Rawlings Blake again. Well, I did. Another radio guy sent me. I wouldn't presume to tell you to do your show, but you don't know what you're talking about with this mayor. And now you, Aaron. It's a good thing I have a spine of steel. Here comes the soundbite. We'll listen to it again.
I've made it very clear that I worked with the police and instructed them to do everything that they could to make sure that the protesters were able to exercise their right to free speech.
Stop it. Stop. Aaron, a quick question. Does expressing your right to free speech give you the right to destroy people's property?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, resume the bite.
Very delicate balancing act, because while we tried to make sure that they were protected from the cars and the other things that were going on, we also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well.
Okay, so we also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. You think she's saying that regretfully?
Yes, exactly. I think her saying in our effort to protect the protesters, we also gave enough room to those who wanted to do damage, and she's regretful of that as she talks about the delicate balancing act.
She regrets that she gave them room to destroy. That's what you're interpreting?
Right. I think in her effort to give the protesters room to protest, it led to the damage, and she's regretful that that balancing act failed.
Well, yeah, she regrets the balancing act failed, but maybe it failed because she gave the protesters room to destroy.